It's Mrs. Surratt to you. I'm going to review factoring trinomials using the box method, and we're going to get problems from the eMath instruction worksheet factoring trinomials. But before I show you how to factor using the box method, I want to show you how you can multiply using the box method, because it will make more sense when it comes to factoring, because factoring is just like the opposite of multiplying. So let's start with exercise 1A. So we use the area model, which is also known as the box, to represent that we're multiplying in two dimensions, a length and a width. So one dimension of the box is the 3x plus 2. So we can put 3x that represents this length and a 2 that represents this length. And then 5x plus 7 that represents the other dimension. Now to find the area, it's length times width. So we're going to multiply the length and width of each of these boxes and fill it in. So 5x times 3x is 15x squared. 3x times 7 is 21x. 5x times 2 is 10x. And 7 times 2 is just 14. So the area of this box will be the sum of each of these pieces. So 15x squared plus 21x plus 10x plus 14. We have these like terms here in the middle, 21x plus 10x. Instead of keeping them separate, why not add them and write it as one term? So our final answer is 15x squared. 21x plus 10x is 31x plus 14. So that is how you can use the box method, which is the same as using the distributive property, to find the product of two binomials. Now, to use the box method to factor, we're going to do this process in reverse. So I'm going to do exercise 3A. I chose exercise 3A because the coefficient of x squared is 3 and not 1. Because if the coefficient of x squared was 1, you could just use the product sum method. And I want you can't use the product sum method from the beginning when the coefficient is not 1 and it's 3. So let's go backwards and fill in the box first. Once we fill in the boxes, then we could figure out what we multiplied to get what was in the boxes. So this 3x squared, we know goes in the first box because the first two terms in our binomials is what we use first to multiply and get that first term. This last term, negative 40, must go in the last box because the last two terms are what we would use to to multiply to get negative 40. We would multiply this number because we want to find all these numbers, right? So to get the negative 40, we would multiply this number by this number, right? Because that will give me the dimensions of this box, and that's what we're going to figure out. But what goes in these two boxes? Remember those two like terms that we added to get the middle term? Well, that's what's going to give us this 19x. So we're going to use the product sum. Product comes from multiplying the 3x squared, the first term, and the last term. We're going to multiply those. So what is 3x squared times negative 40? Negative 120x squared. So this is my product, and 19x is my sum. So let's set up our x. We have to find two numbers that give me negative 120x squared. And when I add them, I get 19x. So you grab your calculator and you start dividing negative 120 by different factors to see if when you add them, you get 19x. So we can do 120 divided by 15. We get 8. So 15 and negative 8. Nope, that doesn't give me 19. We could do 120 divided by 5. We get 24. So we can use 24 and negative 5. That gives me 19. So don't forget your x's. Because when you multiply 24x times negative 5x, you get negative 120x squared. And when you add 24x plus negative 5x, you get 19x. So now let's go back to our box and see if we can finish this thing. So the numbers that go in our box will be 24x and negative 5x. Doesn't matter if I put the 5x, the negative 5x down here and the 24x up here, it doesn't matter. So let's now figure out what had to be the dimensions in order for us to get these products or these areas. So you look across at the rows and you look up and down at the columns and you look for the GCF. So let's look at 3x squared minus 5x. The only factor that these two terms have in common is an x. So we put an x outside. Now let's look this way. The only two factors that 3x squared and 24x have in common is 3x. And I know that's right because 3x times x gives me 3x squared. So we can use these to figure out what goes here and here. 3x times what will give me 24x? 3x times 8. So this one has to be 8. And then 8 times what will give me negative 40? 8 times negative 5. And then check, does negative 5 times x give me negative 5x? It does. So we are done. We have our dimensions, therefore we have factored. The two binomials that we multiply to get 3x squared plus 19x minus 40 are 3x minus 5. That's how I got this. And x plus 8. That's my answer. Those are my factors. Now, this might have seemed like it took long, but that's because I was describing every single step in detail. But once you do this about 2 or 3 times, you'll have the steps down pat, and it will take you less than 30 seconds to factor a trinomial whose leading coefficient is not 1.